Welcome. So glad you tuned in to Leap of Faith as we explore Altos. Taken from the Latin altus, meaning high, we feature top priority news stories. We join our editorial and digital teams at Camzel with trending stories from our local weekly Catholic newspaper, as well as Caribbean, Vatican, and global stories. Take the leap with us, hot off the press.
And welcome to another edition of Altos, your weekly Catholic news program for Trinity TV. We thank all those who have been taking this leap of faith with us, and we urge your continued prayerful support. Let's take a look ahead at what's making the news this week. The beginning of the new school year is only 2 days away. Are our Catholic schools ready? Do you know there's a World Day of Prayer for Creation? Pope Francis has issued a message to mark this occasion. Trinidad and Tobago celebrated its 61st independence anniversary yesterday. Catholic News spoke to some citizens about their thoughts. And later, we speak with Sharon Mangru, Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic Education Board of Management, ahead of the new academic year. And now for our top story. 1 week before the reopening of schools on September 4th, repairs were still underway at some Roman Catholic primary schools, and infrastructure challenges continue into the new term for others. Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic Education Board of Management, Sharon Mangru, on Monday told Catholic News the Education Ministry was still conducting major repairs. These include plumbing, infrastructure, and electrical work, but she expected all schools to be ready for the new term.
Well, the thing is, the repairs are still ongoing. So we have a number of schools in which they are actively working on them right now. So I could tell you Mayo, St. Therese, gosh, there's one in Arima. I remember the one in Arima. So there are schools in which they're doing some fairly major repairs, and it's happening as we speak. So they expect to have that ready for the opening.
At the St. Rose's RC School on Henry Street in Port of Spain, a section of the school building was condemned as far back as February. The northern wing of St. Rose's was used for the Standard 5 and infants classes, while assistance with accommodating other classes was given by the neighboring Rosary Boys RC School. A solution is still to be finalized.
This definitely will not be ready.
Yeah.
We looking to see what temporary arrangements can be made. So we're still in talks with the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
We have some options, but we're not sure which one we'll settle on yet.
Infrastructure problems also impacted the Mondo Nuevo RC School. Staff and students at that school have been sharing space with the Talparo RC School since last year. The school building was condemned after heavy rainfall last November caused cracks on the ground and around the school. Mangru said the site had a soil structure problem. On the transitioning of migrant children into RC schools, the Catholic Education Board head disclosed that more than 100 children have already been assessed. 94 were assessed over the weekend of August 26th to 28th, and the board was in the process of mapping available spaces in schools close to where the migrant children are living. There was a good turnout of Arima Catholics on Sunday, August 27th for the annual Santa Rosa Festival. Former parish priest Monsignor Christian Pereira was the chief celebrant at the Mass which preceded the procession through the streets of the Royal Chartered Borough. Father Andrew Eminike concelebrated the Mass with assistance from Deacon Joachim Hernandez. Preaching on the gospel, Monsignor Pereira said one of the biggest struggles in the world today is leadership and an unwillingness to share authority. He said church members needed to learn how to listen and build respect and communion with others. He urged the congregation to turn to St. Rose of Lima, for example.
Today, my dear sisters and brothers, we allow St. Rose of Lima to teach us the path of synodality. We allow St. Rose of Lima to help us to understand that we must pull away in order to hear clearly. We must pull away in order to understand what is going on in ourselves. And we must pull away so that others could share in the authority given to us as a child of God, as a son or daughter of God.
Monsignor Pereira hoped that the example of the saint would teach people to be true leaders in society. The procession with the statue of St. Rose of Lima followed the liturgy. Among those participating were Rima's Member of Parliament, the Honourable Penelope Beckles-Robinson, outgoing Mayor, His Worship Cagney Casimir, and members of the Santa Rosa First Peoples, led by Chief Ricardo Barath Hernandez. You can read a full report in the September 10th issue of the Catholic News. What does independence mean to you? That was the question Catholic News posed to citizens in anticipation of yesterday's Independence Day celebrations. Let's hear what some of you think.
Celebrating the 61st anniversary of our nation, I'm very proud to boast that Trinidadians are very educated people. And I say that proudly. Of course, we have a little negativity, a little crime. All countries have crime.
We as Trinidadians are great at incorporating others, as well as showing and sharing our cultures, our talents.
For 61 years, we've reached certain heights, we've made so many achievements, and I hope that we'll continue to come together as a nation and build our country for many more years.
For 61 years, I think Trinidad is they're heading to the right path. We're heading there.
To see that, we have free education, we have free healthcare, we have a lot of free things, we have a lot of cheap things compared to all the other countries in the Caribbean and in the world.
It's an awesome thing. I will stand at attention and sing the anthem, God bless our nation.
And we thank those who shared with us. A collection of gems is how Barbara Waif, president of the St. Charles Borromeo Ministry of Consolation and author, described its second publication titled St. Charles Borromeo RC Ministry of Consolation Book 2023. The book focuses on issues arising out of loss, loneliness, and healing of painful memories. At the online book launch on Tuesday, August 22nd, Waif noted that this was the second publication, with the first being published in 2017.
One is gold and the other one is green, right? So we would like to assure you that you need both of them. So don't say it's an update. It is not an update. One is a chronicle of gems, the wisdom, as Nicholas said, wisdom gathered along the way. Wisdom that would help each person. And this one is just practical information, as to what to do when somebody dies.
Sirid Sampson, bereavement counselor at Belgrove's group of companies, read a review of the book done by Nicholas Voisin, counseling psychologist and original pain therapist. Voisin said the book does not brag, exaggerate, or embellish what was done. Rather, it simply reports, and in so doing, gives a very humble but honest impression of the Ministry of Consolation's work over the last decade. Parish priest Monsignor Esau Joseph congratulated the Ministry of Consolation on their hard work. He viewed the book's contents as very meaningful and relevant to everyone.
Everybody knows someone who passed away during the pandemic, so there's still a sense of sadness and grief and loss and bereavement. I looked through some of the books, and there's a natural tendency within some of our clients, as you know, Barbara went through this in the last conference we had, where they are stuck in grief and they're holding on to the past and they can't accept change and move forward. And I think the book is very, very useful for those experiencing this mental health issue.
The book is priced at $100 TT. Pickup is available at the Archdiocesan Family Life Commission's office at the Pastoral Campus located in Belmont and at the St. Charles RC Church in Tunapuna. Zayn Wint is an 11-year-old student with a remarkable gift for art. His drawings are featured in the St. Charles Borromeo RC Ministry of Consolation Book 2023. Wint told Altos reporter Kaelan Jordan that while contributing to a published book was undeniably remarkable, his most cherished moment was the special connection he shared with his grandmother during the process.
Probably just the quality time I got to have with my grandma. We were able to talk way more than we usually do.
Zane explained he was guided by his grandmother, Barbara Waif, the book's author and the ministry's president. Zane enjoys creating and drawing original comics and superheroes from scratch. His advice to peers is to never give up and never feel discouraged. Speaking to Altos, Zane's father Damien said his family is extremely proud of him. He advised parents to encourage and support their children's passions. We at Altos wish young Zane all the best in his artistic endeavors. September 1st is World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation. In his message to mark the day, Pope Francis chose the theme, "Let justice and peace flow," inspired by the words of the prophet Amos, "Let justice flow on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." Pope Francis wrote, "God wants justice to reign. It is as essential to our life as God's children made in his likeness, as water is essential for our physical survival." Pope Francis first instituted the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation in 2015, serving as a way to encourage the faithful around the world to pray for our common home. The annual day also marks the beginning of an ecumenical outreach bringing Christians to pray and work together in what is called the Season of Creation, which lasts till October 4th, the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. Pope Francis said, "During the season of creation, let us dwell on those heartbeats, our own and those of our mothers and grandmothers, the heartbeat of creation and the heartbeat of God. Together, they do not beat in harmony. They are not harmonized in justice and peace." You can read the full message of Pope Francis in this Sunday's issue of the Catholic News. Don't allow drug lords to operate with impunity. That's the call made to those responsible for law enforcement in Dominica by Grand Bay Parish priest Father Branca John during the funeral service of 29-year-old resident Jolson Barron, who died recently from gunshot wounds. The Catholic priest said law enforcement officials who do not enforce the laws of the land and allow drug dealers and gunslingers to operate with impunity are equally responsible for Barron's death and others like him. Barron's death, Father John said, is a wake-up call for citizens, policymakers, sisters and brothers in government to exercise the powers given to them by God to save the lives of young men and women. Last Sunday, Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in Paramin was the perfect backdrop to host a celebration of the oldest known twins in Trinidad and Tobago, Augustine Peter Tardier and his sister, Augustine Nita Tardier. Held one day ahead of their 92nd birthday, family, friends, and well-wishers from the close-knit Paramin community gathered on the compound of their parish church to shower the siblings with love, gifts, and prayers for their continued blessings. In his homily, Father Carlyle Fortune commended them for reaching their age, saying, "They have shown us what it means to persevere through good times and bad, and how to trust and believe in God. Both hard workers, Peter and Nita have been known to spend most of their time in their respective gardens. Peter believes that work ethic helped them achieve long life thus far, and he's of the strong view that crime is a product of laziness."
And try to put aside the laziness, because I could tell you, they call it all kind of crime, but they don't want to mention laziness at all. Laziness is the head of everything.
This was supposed to happen since the week before Carnival. And we kept putting off and putting off and putting off. And we finally came to this day, and trust me, it's a grand day. We as a committee, we feel really happy to celebrate this couple. Because well, I don't know much about Miss Nita, but knowing Mr. Pecco, I've known Mr. Pecco for years. And he has been an inspiration to the people of Paramin. And I hope that God will bless him with a few more years so he can keep on inspiring the people of Paramin.
The event for the twins was organized by a collection of the younger and older heads of Paramin who said the entire production last Sunday was a long time in the making, but they were elated with the way in which things turned out. As with any event in Paramin, the sweet songs of Parang must permeate the air, and the celebration of Peter and Nita was no exception. Nita is already confident that she will return to the church to celebrate 100 years of life.
Quite important for the youth to recognize the elders in keeping up traditions. And when they came with the idea, it actually happened really well today because today is the youth mass. So they got the youth choir to sing for them and the youth participated in the mass. So it was really nice to see the youth and the elderly connect today. And to take care of them, it was very important for us.
When we return after the short break, we speak with Sharon Mangu, who is on set with us again, as we look ahead at what's happening with the reopening of schools come Monday. That and more when we return, but as we take the short break, check out our trivia question, see if you can get the correct answer. Thank you for taking the break with us. We hope you got the question correctly. As we look ahead to the reopening of schools on Monday, we welcome back to the Altos set Sharon Mangu, Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic Education Board of Management, to talk to us a little bit about the state of readiness of our nation's primary schools. Sharon, welcome back to the set. I told you you'd be back here soon enough.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Thanks very much for taking the time. Sharon, where are we with respect to the state of repairs at our primary schools, or Catholic schools on the whole?
You know, we'll never be 100% ready, but I think we're almost ready, and I expect that work will continue into the weekend. And so, apart from St. Rose's, we should have all of the schools ready to reopen.
What's happening with St. Rose's?
St. Rose's, unfortunately, will not be ready fully. The story is, of course, that the school is found to be structurally unsound. The Ministry of Education was ready to begin repairs, but then the National Trust stepped in and said, you cannot demolish the school. And so at this time, we are looking for quotation to see how much it will cost to restore the building before maybe approaching the Ministry of Education to repair once we restore. But meanwhile, the children have to have a place to go.
Of course.
And so we are looking at alternatives. One alternative is to continue using the North Building, and we need to get permission from the Ministry of Works to do that. That would be using that building and also using the space at Rosary Boys. The quality assurance manager is at Rosary Boys right now this morning as we speak. He is speaking to the principal, looking at the possibility of housing some of the children there again.
But Sharon, we go through this every year. This is a perennial issue for us every year, and you'll see the headlines come Tuesday about schools that were not opened on Monday. What's the process that is used for these repairs?
They start with having to scope the work that needs to be done, and so during the year they would have been collecting work, collecting repairs that need to be done, and so then once school closes, they scope the works, the Ministry of Education tenders, and then once a contract is awarded, work can actually start.
Okay.
What holds back, I think, sometimes it takes a while before the tender is awarded.
Between awarding of tender, mobilization of the contractors, and then building out.
Getting started.
So
and of course, the thing is that you can only do this work when school is closed.
When school is closed. So you mentioned St. Rose's. We know in an earlier part of the broadcast we talked about Mondo Nuevo, and you mentioned Mayo. You say those are almost ready. We're almost certain that they'll be ready.
Mayo should be ready because work was being done on the roof. Mondo Nuevo continues to be housed at Talparo because that is a major problem. It's not just the school building. What we have is the soil. So it's a physical problem there. However, Talparo, we've got a container that is housing some of the furniture, some of the storage that was needed. So there's a little improvement in the situation. But that one is going to take a long-term solution.
Okay.
And I think we need to look at all of our schools, look at not just the structures, but the physical surrounding for the school. We have to look at the drainage because, as we're saying, the climate is changing.
Climate is changing. Yeah. And I recall when you were here the first time, you said we have about 184 primary schools, yes?
116.
116
yes.
Primary schools throughout. And a number of those schools that have been built many, many years ago. So we're talking about aging infrastructure here.
Very much, yes.
But so we talk about buildings. What about furniture for these? Because we know that sometimes, quite apart from the repairs, there are complaints about furniture for the schools. Where are you with respect to that?
The ministry provides furniture, but there was a setback during the COVID period when everything was shut down, and so the factories weren't able to manufacture. So there is a shortage of furniture in the schools right now. We have been able to obtain furniture, sometimes from Living Water, sometimes from Field. We've been able to provide some, we being Catholic
education.
But also the ministry will be providing furniture in the future. Meanwhile, however, there are some schools that could tell you they're in dire straits where furniture is concerned.
And we're hearing that people are being asked, some people might be asked to contribute to the purchase of furniture.
Yes, in parishes. But you know, we encourage parishes to take a lot more interest in their schools.
And a lot more responsibility.
Responsibility, because they're our schools. Yes, the Ministry of Education contributes to the upkeep of the schools, but they are our schools.
Yeah. And one of the things, you know, we've said, and, you know, off air we are talking about this, that our responsibility as Catholics cannot begin and end by just walking into the church and walking out after Mass.
No.
Right? We have a responsibility. These are our schools, and we need to contribute to them as well.
We have to. The purpose of the school is to take the Word of God to the children. That's the main purpose of the school. And we can't do that if we do not provide proper conditions, but also if we are not really interested in every single child, every single teacher that is in that school.
And talking about every single child and every single teacher, the whole process of migrant children now accessing our schools when schools reopens on Monday, where are we with respect to that?
This has been a long process, but now the final decision in this matter rests with the Ministry of National Security. Because according to our law, once there is a non-national seeking to access education, formal education at any institution, public, private, anything, they must have a student permit. And so we have provided all of the groundwork that we can. We have identified spaces in the schools. We've provided training for our teachers. We've actually provided some furniture with help from UNICEF. We have assessed the children to see how ready they are in terms of English competency. And this was with help from the University of the West Indies. We have then produced a list which we've given to the Ministry of Education and will update further this week. And the Ministry of Education is in talks with Ministry of National Security, and they need to give us the final word.
How many children have we assessed? How many children can we say are ready for entry into our Catholic primary schools come September?
According to the conditions that were set by the government, and that is that we must have a space for them, that the children must have been registered. That one was important. Their families must have been registered in 2019. And also that they must speak sufficient English so they don't disrupt the school. Last week we submitted a list of about 58 or 59 children. This week we will submit some further, because we did English assessments over the weekend, last weekend. And we will continue with the assessments for a little while. And so we will submit a further list. So in all, at this point, we have about 116 children who should qualify for obtaining that student permit.
And that's the only thing that's holding it back now, the provision of the work permit by the Ministry of National Security.
Yes.
And we're confident that will happen, that will happen soon. Yes, we're keeping our fingers crossed and our knees on the ground.
And plenty praying. You know, we're working with the Ministry of Education, and we've been working closely with the Ministry of Education on this. So, Ministry of National Security to come through now.
But tell me something, Sharon, in terms of the readiness, how, you know, what is the response from principals and teachers? You know, the Parent Teachers Association, for instance, how have they responded to this initiative?
We've been working with our principals for quite a while, so we have much more than the number of spaces that are needed. But these are the principals that said to us, yes, we're willing, and they have provided teachers to do the training programs. So they've done some training with UWE on teaching in English to children who are not native English speakers, which also works to our benefit very much, because our children speak Creole, not English, not standard English.
That's an entirely different story.
It is. But so we've trained teachers. We've also done work with many more teachers on trauma, on dealing with children who have been through trauma of one sort or the other. And we have done some orientation programs for these schools as well. We will do more. We will be providing a good bit more support. And the Ministry of Education is quite ready, I believe, to provide additional support.
Do we have support from the school support, the student support services?
It is planned.
Yes, it is planned.
It is planned, yes. We've had 2 meetings with the Ministry of Education, and both meetings included the Student Support Services Division. And they are standing by. They're very ready.
Support. Yeah. Sharon, we want to thank you very much for coming by again. We really appreciate all the expertise and with which you bring, and we congratulate you on your continued work with the Catholic Education Board of Management. And we look forward to seeing you again on the set sometime.
Thank you very, very much. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
We thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look ahead now at what's coming up in the Archdiocese over the next few days.
Virgin of Mary will be having their anniversary Mass on Thursday, September 7th at Our Lady of Mount Carmel RC Church, Karapichaima. Legionnaires are asked to be seated at 9:30 a.m. to pray the Legion prayers before Mass at 10. The community all-inclusive music program will begin a 12-week beginner's course in guitar, quattro, keyboard, tenor steel pan, drum set, percussion, and vocal performance. Call 708-1107 for more information. Touch of Christ Catholic Deaf Community will be holding a Deaf Retreat weekend from September 8th to Saturday, September 9th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Archdiocesan Family Life Commission Center, corner Max and Murphy Streets, Chaguanas. Lunch and breakfast are $200 for the weekend. St. Anthony's Music Ministry will be hosting its third praise cruise on board the Harbour Master on September 23rd. The cost is $250. Contact 648-2208 for more information.
And we know you enjoyed reading last week's edition of Catholic News, so let's take a look at what's in this week's edition of Catholic News with Simon Delochan, Associate Editor of the Catholic News.
In the September 3rd issue of the Catholic News, read the Pope's message for the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation. Finbar Garcia offers important tips on job hunting for school leavers. And Daniel Francis warns about the dangers of situationships in his column, The Millennial Mind. I am Simone Delochan, Associate Editor, Catholic News.
Remember to get your copy of the Catholic News and purchase a copy for your neighbor as well. We take a one-week break from the program for Trinity TV's telethon next week, but rest assured we'll be back with you on September 15th. And remember, you can send your videos and photos for consideration on Altos by emailing altos@catholictt.org. That's ALTOS@CATHOLICTT.org, all lowercase. As we close this week's edition, we leave you with the beautiful sounds of 7-year-old Zayden Darius, a student of the Point Fortin RC School, as he performed recently at the NGC's 40th anniversary celebrations. Good evening, everyone.
Cast your burden unto Jesus, for he cares for you. Hiya, 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 hiya. Bless Jesus, hiya, 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 hiya. Bless Jesus, we're going lower. Super